Hello, and welcome to the Healing Path. I'm Laura Donnelly from Dancing with Ease Body Brain Balance. And the Healing Path is a little focus that grew out of my work because I realized almost all of my work is grounded in healing. And then I realized almost everybody I know and am close to is also working in some aspect of the healing field. And then I realized something more, which is that the basis that we all share is that healing starts first in ourselves with the intention to heal. And then, whatever modality we use, whether it's traditional medicine or alternative medicine, that energy to choose healing amplifies at whatever we do. The other thing is that healing doesn't always look like we expect it to look. It's a journey. And on that journey, I have met my very good friend, Imogen Ragone, and she's going to join me today in just a second. And I'll bring her on the screen, and she can tell you a little bit about her life, her history. But I will share that we met, I realized today, before we started, that we met in 2015. We both had parental issues come up that required us to step up a bit into the caregiving role with our family members. And we have been supporting each other as friends and colleagues ever since. Hi, Imogen.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me on your show.
It's so good to see you and to be able to share this work that we first did for each other. Just
Absolutely, yeah.
As friends and okay. So the first thing, we studied the Alexander technique. We practice the Alexander technique. We teach the Alexander technique, and so that was a first. What do I want to say? Area of affinity.
Yes.
And I think if you wanted to share, I know that you use the Alexander technique as a method for working on a kind of a chronic pain point you had.
Well, that's what brought me to the Alexander technique originally. I had chronic neck pain and excess tension all in this sort of area. And nothing else was providing any sort of long-term solution. Certain things would give me short-term relief, but nothing was providing a long-term solution. And I think that's because Alexander technique looks at how we are doing and how we are being in the moment of everything we do. So it looks at your whole patterns of being, your habits, physical and mental, and how that all works together. And so I was able to unravel a lot of those patterns that were causing me harm. I was unintentionally harming myself, basically. Yeah.
I think a lot of us do that.
Yeah.
And ever since I've known you, you haven't really complained of neck pain at all. So did you get it to go away?
It sometimes will pop up, but I have such a different relationship to it now. That's the other thing, because no one's to blame for their pain and discomfort, and I'm not saying I do this perfectly anymore. Nothing like that, but I have really sustainable tools that I can draw on to not exacerbate and amplify what's going on, because as we know, when you are focused in a certain way, always on a pain point, a tension in the body, it magnifies it. It doesn't typically help it shift. And so Alexander technique helps you take a step back and shift it's not saying no, there isn't any pain, but there's more than pain.
Well, no, it's a different way of working with it.
Yeah.
And it's and what I hear you saying is, you went for this, and it turned into an adventure of discovery.
It really did. It became, I mean, I was totally only interested in getting rid of this, thing. But I just got totally enamored. It was with the Alexander technique because it offered so much more. I mean, just in the way I experienced life and took care of myself and of my family, and was able to enjoy activities again, which I'd sort of removed myself from because, everything would, I had this kind of way of correlating things that I do to the pain, which was not incorrect, but the way I was doing those activities, the way I was interacting with those people were all a big part of why pain would flare up, or.
Right. So I was thinking too about our journey as we
Yeah.
went through the whole, me caring for my mom, you caring for your parents, and then ultimately caring for your mom. And in the beginning, how, we were just chatting, and then suddenly you offered something you offered to help me with my webpage, which was like so amazing. And because part of self-care, I think, that's really important is being able to accept help. I think it's that's the first step, not even asking for help. Sometimes they say to you, well, just ask for what you need. And in the moment, you're so overwhelmed by all the pieces and parts of caregiving that you don't know what you need.
Yeah, I was just going to say, a lot of the time we don't know what we need in that moment, but someone else can see it clearly, a friend, a professional of some kind, but you're right in it. So
yeah. And so then we just, it was just a casual starting, and then we started going. And then I know for myself, living through taking care of my mom at the end of her life, I relied on the Alexander technique and the process of returning to ease in my system to do everything, to deal with my own sadness, to deal with my mom's frustration, to deal with all the pieces and parts. Living at her house and trying to keep my house 150 miles away functioning. Being in close confines again with my family of origin. My brother came, and this made my mom most happy to have us all three together. Did not necessarily make my brother and I most happy.
Yeah.
And stuff, but there were old patterns, like you said, of living together from when we started our life together, when my mom was the head of the family, to now when my brother and I were taking care of her at the end of what was our nuclear family.
Yeah.
And so we, out of our challenges, right, and our struggles and our growth, we did create Caregiver Central together, which is another thing is sharing the journey with other people makes it less isolating.
Yeah.
Less, it doesn't change any of the things, like you said, that didn't change that your neck pain is still sometimes there, but how you manage, work with, deal with the situations of caregiving or with your neck pain, these things change. And having someone to remind you, oh, well, how easily could you do that thing? What do you mean? What do you mean? How easily could I do that? I didn't, sometimes it never occurs to you that you could do something a different way, an easier way. And so that's how we created our Caregiver Central.
Yeah, I think we were also inspired because we were both in an online group for Alexander Technique teachers learning with Mio Morales and learning to kind of teach, and this approach for being online together in a very supportive community, and that was inspiring too. But I am really remembering, Laura, being on the phone with you and you helping me with dealing with phone calls I was receiving at that time from my dad. This is while my parents were still at home, but had a lot of challenges and struggles, and he would call mostly kind of frantically needing something, or he's in England and I'm in Delaware. So I was managing things remotely unless I was, I did many visits during that time too. But really kind of working with that simple thing of how I would answer the phone, and how easily, to go back to your question, how easily could I pause and not assume that there was going to be a problem. For sure, 9 times out of 10 there was, but not every time. Sometimes he just wanted to talk or wanted to share the football results with me or something, fun. So yeah.
Right. And so this is also part of how we came up, because these little shifts are so tiny, that we thought about some ways to share with people how to very, very gently take care of yourself. Because that's another thing I experienced in caring for another person, is how busy I was, how little time I felt I had for myself.
Yeah.
And even if I would get a full night's sleep, every day I was a little bit more tired, a little bit more stressed, a little bit more worn down. And when I would recognize that and come back to myself and pay attention to the Alexander technique and pay attention to how I was doing what I was doing, this shifted everything very gently. Not a huge shift. I was still at my mom's house. She was still on a slow and steady decline. There was still all the things that had to be done and all the people that had to be managed and all of the everything. But instead of pushing myself to do that, I got to do it. I'm like, well, again, how easily can I do this today? How easily can I get the shopping done today?
Yeah.
And so then we thought, oh, easy peasy, itsy bitsy, bite-sized self-care for caregivers and beyond. Because really, aren't we all caring for somebody?
Yeah.
Right?
Ourselves being the primary. Yeah.
Yeah. So we made this adventure, and we like it.
Yeah. But I'm thinking back to because mostly I was a remote distance kind of caregiver, but then I would have these intense, like 2 weeks of being
Oh
in
yeah.
the house with them 24/7, and having moments where I could just come back to myself and let go of some of maybe not even completely, but I think this is the thing, even a little bit is really important. And dealing with, my mother had Alzheimer's, and dealing with someone with short-term memory loss, when you're repeating the same thing over again, you're being asked the same questions over again, the same pattern is going on, it can be extremely frustrating however much you love that person. And being able to sometimes come back helped. If I was less frustrated, then she would pick up on those non-verbals and it wouldn't be as anxious for her. Also really useful when maybe I didn't respond in my best way, to then I could come back and it's more compassionate to myself. And again, I'm not amplifying that even more. So it's so useful, and moments, and there's many ways that we can have little moments. Easy peasy, itsy bitsy ways. Yes.
Yeah. And when we take care of ourselves, that changes our energy.
Yeah.
And when that energy is changed, it changes the energy of how we interact with other people.
Yeah.
And and like you said, maybe you have to help somebody stand up or sit down. And if I'm feeling, you know, that they need my help instantly, but I've got something boiling on the stove, and I'm suddenly like, and I might even just say, I'll be right there. And it has this sharp energy.
Hmm.
And I remember to pause. Maybe I smile. I say, let me just take this off the stove. And then when I connected with my mom, the energy in my hands wasn't tight and grabby,
Yeah.
because I gave myself a little moment of self-care. And in that moment, I had time to realize, okay, this has to come off the stove because it will burn, or I will, you know, be raw
Yeah.
because I'm trying to hurry back. And it's just like a pause and a smile.
I mean, that pause is huge, because if we just were in reaction mode and you go to help your mom, and yes, you do that in a maybe not as nice a way for her system and your system, but also you've maybe got a fire starting in the kitchen, and so that's a little, maybe slightly extreme example, but there's so much to be said for having these moments that we can be a little bit more open, and then have a more choices to see more clearly what's going on and what is the priority now. And
Yeah.
yeah.
In this moment, what's the priority
Yeah.
in this moment? Not all day, not for the next hour.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so through conversation, and sharing what worked with each other, what worked in my situation, what worked in your situation. Um, I think that the caregiver's central, well, and then there was this thing that we were looking for the website, right? And then there was no com, so we got net, and then we're thinking, oh yeah, this is like a container, like a
Mm.
like a basket, a soft, not a sharp thing, not a bowl, not a hard thing, but an expandable, movable net, which is what I felt was really helpful to me in my caregiving. And interestingly, you brought this up with Alzheimer's, is that sometimes the most unflexible thing in caregiving is our idea of how we have to do it.
Mm.
I should be kinder, more patient.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. No, this is just natural. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
natural, and natural and not helpful.
Yeah. Um, and when we have that bit of space, you can be a little bit more in the observer role, and like, oh, there I am, shoulding again, or whatever the thing is. And again, enables you to, in the next moment, make a different choice if you want to. Yeah.
And so because we were in the online environment, and so many caregivers we know are isolated and in a small circle around the people they're caring for, because that is the nature of what's happening. Imogen and I thought that an online group that supported each other in various ways, with video, with conversation, with moments of live chat like this, where people could just say, hey, anybody ever deal with this? I don't know how to deal with this, and and kind of just create a safe space for people to share, but where they didn't have to go. I know when I was caring for my mom, the pastor who or chaplain who worked for the hospice kept saying, "There's a caregivers group. You can go to the caregivers group." And I'm like, you go. Because finding somebody to stay with my mom, answering the phone after 20 minutes when she's like, "Are you going to come home?" And if I got time away, the last thing I wanted to do is meet a bunch of people I didn't know. Even if they were kind people, even if they were in the same situation. No, I want to take my book and go to the coffee shop, put on some headphones, and bubble chill, But what we talked about with each other is how helpful it was to share with each other. And then we created this thing. And then because we were in the online thing, people are doing challenges. And so we thought we would do a self-care challenge, which we thought again was kind of funny. And then well, because self-care, how is self-care challenging? But then we realized this is a challenge to put it in our lives. Then after we did it a few times, we started talking, maybe it's an adventure. Maybe it's an adventure of discovery of how micro self-care can actually change us.
Yeah. And we talked about, caregivers have plenty of challenges that they don't need another challenge. So we can give them a little mini adventure too. And it's interesting talking about the online space that we sort of created. And of course, this past year, more and more people have been isolated and had more and more challenges, and it's not over yet. So more necessary for more of us to be able to take care of ourselves.
So I did find this quote that we talked about this morning, and
Right.
it's saying that we've all experienced and probably continue to experience some sense of isolation and maybe even trauma over the last year in terms of loss of all kinds of things. And the idea that it's going to take time and support and new tools to really begin to heal. And Imogen and I really both firmly believe that self-care is one of the primary healing areas that can help us, heal ourselves, that can help us be in better shape to care for the people we know. And so we decided to run our easy peasy, itsy bitsy, bite-sized self-care adventure starting on February 1st. And the link is in the comments, and I'm going to look really funny because I'm going to type it here so it goes across the deal. And
so while you're typing, I'll just say this is just a 7 day 7-day mini journey, and each self-care action takes under 5 minutes, some just a moment to do. So we make it really, really simple and showing how important it is to sprinkle moments of self-care into your day that you might not even have thought of as self-care, or might dismiss because they seem so short and nothing. But
I don't have smile in this one. I can't remember. But
yeah, we don't. Yeah, that's the thing. We've got some whole new prompts from our previous ones, some more fun, mini, short, bite-sized, itsy bitsy prompts. And in our last challenge, we had just simply to smile. So if I'm smiling, Laura, it's really hard for you not to smile, and we get all that kind of automatic feedback to ourselves that things are well and good.
This moment. And the thing, this moment If I take care of myself this moment and the next moment and the next moment, it's not like I have to lay out a huge self-care plan and fit in massage, which maybe people can do today or not, or a spa date or anything, just a smile.
I think that's the other thing is as a lot of people might think of self-care as something they go and have done to them, like the massage, which may or may not be accessible at the moment anyway. But in addition to the massage, which is great, that you can look after yourself. You don't have to rely on external self-care opportunities, let's put it like that. There are ways you can look after yourself in whatever you're doing in your life right now.
Very gently, very easily.
Yeah.
So, the link on the screen is where you can go and find out more about Caregiver Central. And then there you will find a banner at the top that says self care. Probably says self care challenge, but it may say adventure soon or not. Just click that button and then you can sign up. It's perfectly free. Perfectly free. That's interesting. Completely free. And we would love to meet you, whether you're caring for a beloved pet, yourself as you recover from a situation, a parent, a child, a friend, another relative, whoever. I think everybody's caring for somebody.
Yeah.
And these little tips you can take and apply to your life. And we have a very private group, so you can share what you discover along your adventure and journey in self-care.
If you want to. Yeah. So you don't
Only
have to. Yeah. Yeah. So very easy.
Also, in the description are ways to get in touch with me and Imogen if you have any questions, and you can always put comments below this video, and we will be happy to answer them. And thank you, Imogen, for taking the time to share and talk and hang out. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, and I'm really glad that we're partnering again to do this challenge, or should I say, adventure? Yeah.
That's it. Thank you so much, and take good care.